Welcome to Pat's Cast. I'm Brad Whitaker. We have mock drafts galore going on right now, and they can be sliced in many different ways. But a very intriguing mock draft came out of Patriots Wire via the USA Today just yesterday. And I think, honestly, this might be the best plan if the Patriots do intend on trying to win right away. So yesterday in the podcast, I outlined a plan that basically suggested you draft Marvin Harrison Jr. at third overall, and then you take J.J. McCarthy either in the second round if he's available, or if you think he's going to be snagged earlier, you trade back in the first round, you develop him, bring in a veteran quarterback like a Joe Flacco or a Jacoby Brissett, and keep Mac Jones, and you basically have the three of them compete for the starting job with the understanding that in all likelihood McCarthy would sit a year and the veteran QB would take over. Now, the issue with that plan, however, is the Patriots defense, which is elite, probably top 5 in the league. Most players are coming back. We still don't know about Kyle Duggar and Josh Uche, but we'll know in the coming weeks what's going to happen with them. But for the most part, that elite defense is going to be back. They still have Gerard Mayo coaching them. DeMarcus Covington was the obvious choice as the defensive coordinator with the way he's coached Christian Barmore and some of these other players. They're in a good situation defensively, but then when you look 2 seasons down the road, suddenly you're starting to lose some of those guys. Those contracts will begin to run out, and you're going to have to devote resources in the offseason again to addressing that defense. So the Patriots have a small window here where they really need to rebuild the offense quickly if they want to be a good team next season and, dare I say, potentially contend. Now, that's a leap, I know, but I think this USA Today Patriots Wire mock draft would put them in the best position to be a contender right away and change it from a 4 to 5 year rebuild to a 1 to 2 year rebuild, maybe just one. And it starts with trading the third overall pick to the Minnesota Vikings. Now, I floated this out. This was a rumor. It kind of started with Colin Cowherd a few weeks ago, where the Minnesota Vikings, understanding that they do not want to pay Justin Jefferson going into the final year of his contract. He's going to demand more money than any receiver probably in league history, probably is the best receiver in the NFL right now. They trade him away to the Patriots. The Patriots take the Vikings' 11th pick, and then they get the contract off the books, and the Vikings have a chance to select their quarterback with the intention that they also do not plan to re-sign Kirk Cousins, because that's going to be somewhat expensive as well. And you can't really afford, with their cap situation, both Justin Jefferson and Kirk Cousins for the long term. So this puts the Vikings in a position to get their quarterback of the future and kind of start a quick rebuild with some of the pieces that they already have there. And they do have quite a few pieces, particularly with that receiving core, even if Justin Jefferson is out. So the Patriots get arguably the best wide receiver in the NFL. Now, you don't do this deal unless you plan to pay him, but they will head into the offseason in all likelihood with somewhere around $80 to $100 million in cap space. Certainly, you're going to be able to extend his contract and maybe restructure that a little bit. So you maybe chew up a little more cap space this coming season and then a little less in the ensuing years. I'm sure Jefferson would want to do something like that if that trade did take place. So the Patriots now have their number one receiver, the first real number one they've had since Randy Moss. So that position is taken care of. Hopefully you bring back Kendrick Bourne, you have Demario Douglas, maybe you franchise tag Hunter Henry. Suddenly you go from having a bad receiving core to a very good one on day one. That would be very interesting if the Vikings are willing to do it. So then the Patriots would have the number 11th overall pick taken from Minnesota, and they have them selecting J.C. Latham, offensive tackle out of Alabama. Definitely one of the better tackles heading into the draft. There are likely going to be 7 to 8 offensive tackles, maybe even 9 taken in the first round. If you're going to spend that third pick on a quarterback or on Marvin Harrison, then you got to wait and get basically the best tackle available, which you're probably getting 9 or 10 in the second round if you want to take a tackle then. This ensures you get that receiver right away, and you're able to select one of the best tackles right off the bat and take care of the position right then and there. Ideally, they also re-sign Mike Onwenu, and either he gets pushed back to right guard or he stays at right tackle, where he played very well during the second half of the season. And that puts them in the second round at 34 overall, has the Patriots taking Jordan Morgan, another offensive tackle, this time out of Arizona. If that were the case, and they did bring back Onwenu, then you have Latham on the left tackle spot, Morgan in right tackle. You got two great rookies there. You have your offensive line built for the future. They're guys that would be ready on day one to really be efficient, strong, competent tackles right off the bat. And then you have Mike Onwenu, who I know he did great at right tackle, but you put him at right guard. Suddenly, that is a very complete offensive line. I'm assuming David Andrews is going to come back. And Cole Strange, very good left guard when healthy. We saw a lot come from him before he got injured last season. I'm a big fan of Cole Strange. Still think they took him way too early a few seasons ago, but if Cole Strange is the weakest player that you have on that offensive line, you're in a pretty good situation. And suddenly the Patriots have arguably one of the best O-lines in the NFL with two great rookie tackles and Onwenu kick back to right guard. That would be really the best case scenario. Now you have your number one wide receiver, you have your left tackle, you have your right tackle, and you've done that within the first 34 picks of the draft. This really is amazing. Now, Justin Fields, in all likelihood, the Chicago Bears will be selecting Caleb Williams with the first overall pick in the draft, which means they're going to have to move on from Justin Fields. I would expect if they want to trade Fields, they're going to pick up his fifth-year option, which would cost somewhere around $25 million. So he's got a cheap rookie contract number heading into the fourth year of his contract, the 2024 season, and then you have to pay him a little bit more in the fifth year. But if the Patriots are going to trade for Justin Fields, which I think a high third-round pick, which they have, would be enough to get him. I don't think you're getting a second for him. Maybe, certainly not a first, but a third-round pick for a quarterback that has the experience now could really work out. And then you have him for at least a couple of seasons. And if it doesn't work out, well, hey, you have to start over in 2 years. But that's a better situation, perhaps, than bringing in a bridge in free agency or, having to rely on Mac Jones or Bailey Zappi for another season or two for Zappi and knowing that you're going to have to start over again. Now, to those that aren't very excited about Justin Fields, just go ahead and look at his numbers from last season. The Bears got off to a very bad start, and so did Fields. They lost their first 4 games, but things really began to accelerate for Fields after that point. His passer rating, his QBR really climbed, and the Bears won 4 out of their last 6 games with a very weak roster and not a great offensive line. Suddenly, you have Justin Fields with protection that he's never had before, and you maybe got your quarterback of the future. I'm still bullish on him. We saw him in New England a couple seasons ago on Monday Night Football. Certainly can use his legs, extend plays, make throws on the run. Now, how is he going to be in terms of going through the progression, making the correct reads in a timely manner? That kind of remains to be seen. That being said, with Alex Van Pelt and Ben McAdoo coming in and bringing in a kind of a hybrid old school, new school West Coast offense, what they ran in Cleveland, and having that offensive line in front of him, and ideally Justin Jefferson, Justin Fields is going to be put in a really great situation with a more simplified offense. And then you're rolling, right? You have a fourth-year borderline veteran. I don't know if you call him a veteran yet, but quarterback Justin Fields. You had the best receiver in the NFL. You have Demario Douglas, the slot receiver of the future. You figured out both tackle spots. You keep Onwenu, and maybe you franchise tag Hunter Henry. And that is a pretty damn good offense heading into week 1 that has been rebuilt in 1 offseason and just 3 rounds of draft picks. I think that's the way you do it. And you're bringing back that elite defense. Suddenly you go from being a bottom AFC team to at least, I think, being in the conversation in the AFC East. I think the Bills, they finished the season hot, but I don't think the Bills are in a great position for longevity, particularly with Josh Allen's contract. I think they'll take a step back. Miami's still having a lot of trouble getting over the hump, and unless the New York Jets can give Aaron Rodgers the protection he needs, I'm just not buying them, particularly with Robert Saleh as the head coach. I'm still envisioning this scenario where Saleh and the Jets and Aaron Rodgers win like 6 games. They fire him and Bill Belichick goes to New York. I hope that doesn't happen, but we at least know Saleh is going to be back next year, and I don't think the Jets are in a position to win unless they really spend all their draft capital and free agency money on the offensive line, which could jumpstart their rebuild. Now, the Patriots have a long way to go, right? They're essentially starting that offense from scratch, but this mock draft really puts them in a position to really jumpstart that offense right in week 1, and suddenly you go from being a bad team to a good team, and that elite defense is certainly going to make life a lot easier. And maybe, they need to score 24 points a game. I think that offense certainly could. And now suddenly you're going to have 30-point games, I'm guessing, and having a guy like Justin Jefferson in New England certainly would be exciting. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you're watching on YouTube, like this video and subscribe, or subscribe if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. Do you think this is a great idea? Do you think the Vikings would go for it? That's also kind of the big question. But if they don't want to pay Jefferson and Kirk Cousins, this is a really good scenario for them. Do you like the idea of having Justin Jefferson addressing the tackle positions in the first and second round, and then bringing in Justin Fields, which I think is the biggest question mark here, but I am very bullish on him? Let me know in the comments below. Going to be very interesting.